Sound check, Counselor Toth.
I can hear you, but it's a little quiet. I'm hoping it's just on my end.
Sound check, Counselor Toth.
That sounds better.
Excellent. Just waiting for the locked encoder to be unlocked or decoded, or both, I guess. Unlocked. All right, we are unlocked and decoded. Very good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of council of October 16th. It being 7:01, a call, well, we first have the land acknowledgement. Councillor Shepherd.
The district of Sechelt is located on the traditional unceded territory of the Sechelt Nation. We respect the histories, language, and culture of the people of the Sechelt Nation, whose presence continues to enrich the community.
Thank you. I'll call the meeting to order and note that Councillor Rowe is on vacation and we have Councillor Toth on Zoom. Thanks, because you're not feeling well, so thanks for not sharing. I'd like to clarify perhaps with our CAO, please. Do we have a corporate officer today? The corporate officer is online. Thank you. Okay, so council, we have an agenda in front of us. I don't have any amendments or changes. No one else does, then I'll entertain a motion. Seconded. All in favor? Carried. And I didn't ask for it, but assume if there are any conflicts, you would be speaking up. That being the case, we will move right along to the first of our two delegations and Connect the Coast. Come on up, and I think you've been briefed on turning on the microphone and pull it close to you, please. That's great. Okay, welcome.
Hello, thank you. So my name is Tanis Braithwaite, and I'm here tonight to ask for the district's support for the Connect the Coast project. Connect the Coast is a project to build high-quality, all ages and abilities active transportation infrastructure along the Highway 101 corridor between Langdale and West Sechelt. The initiative was started by a local nonprofit known as Transportation Choices Sunshine Coast, or probably better known as TRAC. Back in 2021, TRAC hired a professional transportation planner to analyze the Highway 101 corridor to tell us whether or not it was even possible to build high-quality infrastructure along the corridor, given the right-of-way constraints and so on. To recommend to us a particular type of infrastructure that would work for different sections of the corridor, and also to provide a multiple accounts evaluation that would allow us to prioritize segments for development. And so this is a map that provides a sort of high-level overview of what the planner provided to us. The green line at the end, this shows different route types that are recommended for the corridor. So the pale green lines are neighborhood streets that would be shared among all road users. The darker green lines that you can see through Gibsons and Sechelt are areas where there's already heavy development and existing sidewalks. So the proposal would be to add protected bike lanes. The long purple line represents a bi-directional multi-use path along the south side of Highway 101. And the sections of red represent unidirectional multi-use paths on both sides of the highway. So this is obviously an enormous undertaking, and so that's where the multiple accounts evaluation comes into play. So we decided to deprioritize areas where there was a route that was alternative to the highway, and also to consider the quality of the existing highway infrastructure. So even though it's a paved shoulder the whole way, the shoulder is much better in some areas than it is in other areas. We also looked at things like population density, existing demand, and other types of existing infrastructure. And that allowed us to come up with our top priority areas. So the very first top priority area that was identified connects Upper Gibsons to the turnoff at Lower Road. And the second priority area that was identified is Seashelt. I don't know how many people really studied the consultant report that we got. The second priority area was actually linking Davis Bay to Seashelt Village. But as I'm sure you can appreciate, that is a very difficult section to get through. And while we do plan to get there eventually, we'd like to start with sections that are a little bit easier to get more experience and more success under our belts before we carry on. And so we're looking at moving through Seashelt in a direction sort of east to west. Out on the east side, it's very straightforward, and it gets increasingly difficult as we move west into Seashelt Village. This coincides very well with Seashelt's own plans. This is a slide that's taken from the Seashelt 2010 Official Community Plan. And both it and the 2009 Master Transportation Plan identify Highway 101 as the top priority for active transportation improvements. And you can see that by the red line that follows the highway corridor. This next slide shows more precisely this area that we're proposing to tackle as our next priority after the Gibsons End. At the Gibsons End, we'll connect to Lower Road, and Lower Road will be followed into sort of the heart of, the heart of Roberts Creek. The route would then continue along Beach Avenue to Park Avenue, up Park Avenue, and through the Provincial Park, Roberts Creek Provincial Park Campground back to the highway. And we would then be looking at a multi-use path along the south side of the highway between the exit of the Provincial Park and Field Road. And so for each section of the highway that we are proposing to develop, that we anticipate there being 3 phases: a conceptual design phase, a detailed design phase, and a construction phase. The estimated cost of the conceptual design phase for the section from Roberts Creek Provincial Park to Field Road is $175,000. That's based on draft proposals that have been received from consultants that are doing work currently on the Gibsons End. But they're not quite final, so it might change a little bit. And we are here to ask for support from Seashelt in the form of a budget allocation of $75,000 and 40 hours of staff time that we can use as matching funds for successful grant applications or potentially for private donations. And the reason that I am here tonight is because the work that, the conceptual design phase work that's happening down on the Gibsons End on the top priority section has now been funded. We made some successful grant applications and received some donations as well as municipal contributions. And that work is currently underway, and it's expected to conclude in January of 2026. So we now have a bunch of volunteers at Connect the Coast sitting around with time on their hands and keen to get going on a new set of grant applications to fund the next section. And I just want to end on this very hopeful slide. This is a section of multi-use path that was recently built in the right-of-way of the Provincial Highway 16, linking the town of Smithers and the village of Telkwa. This multi-use path has been the love project of an organization, a nonprofit advocacy group based in Smithers called Cycle 16, who for upwards of 20 years now have been working towards building support for the path, raising money, doing design work. About a year ago, they managed to finance the construction of their first 3-kilometer section of multi-use path. And in the spring of this year, the ministry announced that it was going to fully fund construction of the rest of the path. It's about 12 kilometers in total, at a cost of about $10 million. And they will also be taking over jurisdiction of the path, which means they will do all the future maintenance and look after the liability risk and all of that. That project is being funded through, there was in the last year's current year's provincial budget, there was a new line item added, which was $150 million that was given to the Ministry of Transportation and specifically earmarked for active transportation improvements in ministry right-of-ways. The bulk of that money is going to adding an active transportation component in some major infrastructure projects like the Massey Tunnel replacement and the Pattullo Bridge replacement in the Lower Mainland. But some of it has been going to projects similar to the ones that we are proposing, and Cycle 16 was one of the beneficiaries of that money. And we're hoping that that's the ultimate goal. We're hoping that continues in the budget and eventually we'll get the ministry to take over this project. But we think they need a little encouragement before they're going to get there. And so we're asking for your support to help us encourage them. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Councillor Inkster.
We've talked with your group a number of times over a number of years, and you're very active and enthusiastic. And so you'll obviously be driving this for a number of years to get those needed bicycle paths on the Sunshine Coast. When you approached Gibson's, what kind of financial commitment did they provide to you and or guarantee to you, and will that complete their part of the network? The reason I ask is we have a highway going through a long way through Sechelt, as you know from the map. And the portion that we would commit would only get us to Wilson Creek, which is, it's not a very dense area in there, so we're moving people through, but we're not necessarily serving our own community. It's a small piece. So that's why I'm asking, in terms of scale, there's maybe some challenges for us, but if you could help me with the Gibson's piece, thanks.
Yeah, so when we approached Gibson's, we were in an emergency situation. The Green Municipal Fund had a grant stream that seemed perfect for us, that was coming to an end prior to the start of the next budget cycle. And it required us to have a municipal partner in order to apply. So the Gibson's came on with the minimum amount that was required of a municipal partner of $35,000 and 40 hours of staff time. And the Sunshine Coast Regional District came in with another $35,000. What that pot of money altogether, it's about $280,000 that was raised. And what that pot of money will do is fund data collection work for the entire section through Gibson's and Elphinstone to connect to Lower Road. And that includes archaeological work, environmental work, and topographic surveying. It won't fund conceptual design of most of the section in Upper Gibson's. And there's technical reasons for that. Specifically, the road as it exists is not wide enough now to accommodate protected bike lanes. So the road would have to be rebuilt. If the ministry decides to build a bypass of Upper Gibson's, they may allow the travel lanes to be narrowed enough that it would accommodate protected bike lanes without rebuilding the roadway. So that is a bit of an unknown, and we're not doing conceptual design work on that section. I tend to get in the weeds on questions because I'm a
Okay.
details person. So the answer to your question is no, that will not fully fund the Gibson's portion of the work.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. Other questions? No. I've always been curious. We know the biggest problem is Selma Park through to Seashell. And I get the idea of, hey, if we build everything else, then we can deal with that at the end. But I don't know how we deal with it at the end. Like,
Yeah, I don't know how we deal with that at the end either. I mean, we are in the process right now, and in fact, we had reports that this has already happened. One of the things that we are doing is having an equipped drone. A company called GeoVera is flying an equipped drone along both sides of the highway corridor, most of the way between Langdale and West Sechelt, to collect high-density LiDAR and photogrammetry data. And that will provide us a lot more accurate information on what space is actually available and what the topography of the land is like through Selma Park. That will help the engineers. Engineers can apparently look at that and figure out what is and is not possible. There is enough, well, there probably isn't enough space in the right-of-way without property acquisitions along there. There are a significant number of properties that are potentially impacted, but we don't know enough detail to know which ones are actually going to be impacted or how much.
I agree with you. We don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, so that's why we'll have more information and a better idea of that after the surveying is done.
And how will that be funded?
Well, the aerial surveying is being funded through the money that's already been
Oh, I see.
raised.
Okay,
The
Great.
incremental cost of flying a drone extra distance is quite insignificant. So instead of just doing the end that we're actually working on, we decided to do the whole thing.
very good. Okay, Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for coming with this very important project. I'm really excited about the possibility of it, at least getting to Sechelt someday soon. I'm just wondering if there's any parts where you've received any tourism dollars for this, because once it is linked up, it will be a wonderful tourism asset. And also I want to know, if possible, if there's any alternative routes you've considered, also taking into account for emergency preparedness, we might need alternative routes, so it might serve a dual function there.
Yeah, so on the tourism question, we haven't directly received any tourism dollars. After we released our initial consultants report, Sunshine Coast Tourism became very excited about the idea, and they received a grant in order to continue this study between West Sechelt all the way to Lund. And we've been promoting the idea that the Sunshine Coast would make part of a long distance cycling route involving the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island. We think that has the potential to draw tourists from all over the world. But so far we haven't gotten any tourism related money per se. And sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Was the possibility of considering, especially that tricky part through Selma Park, of alternative routes and also routing maybe for alternative emergency purposes if the highway gets in trouble sometime.
Yeah, so we haven't looked, we did look for alternative routes through Selma Park. The problem, as I'm sure you know, is it's extremely steep through that area. And so any route that's off the highway would involve a lot of extra climbing that I think people are not inclined to do if it can be avoided. So I think most people would stay on the highway. The other possible way is, of course, along the water, but that is a very long-term and potentially very expensive option. In terms of the emergency routes down at the Gibson's end, we did consider the possibility of building it's, especially the bridges are an issue, and there's a lot of big bridges that will be required in that area, and it's very significantly more expensive to build those to a standard that they can carry the weight of heavy vehicles. And so that is not being considered as part of the conceptual design, simply because even at conceptual design stage, the engineering becomes quite a bit more expensive, and we didn't receive any funding to do that.
Great. Thank you. I guess we'll leave it there. Oh, sorry.
That's
Yes.
okay. Through the chair, I just want to, just a comment. I want to thank you. I want to thank TRAC for their ongoing commitment and dedication to active transportation. I mean, this is one heck of a project. It's so needed. And just want to thank you for that ongoing, never give up attitude that you have. Let's hope that maybe we'll all be on electric bicycles, and so that we can make those hills, because that certainly is a challenge, but certainly something to factor in for the future. So thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks. A question?
Question, process-wise, obviously we have two presentations tonight that are quite important. So the question I would ask is, where do we go next to stay on track with TRAC? Because we know they're on the right track. So how do we go forward with this, and then obviously the next one, right? And I'll ask that then. But I'm, you know, their group is large, as I said at the very beginning, how connected they are and how hard they work. So, but it's a very large, enthusiastic group. So how do we harness that going forward is what I would ask. Because they've come to us a number of times since this council was elected, and I have heard at least two council members say how supportive they are of this group. So, and I am as well. So I'd love to figure out a way to try to work with them. Yes.
I think I'm right, and I'll defer to staff, but this would be come to us as part of a budget proposal, presumably.
Yes, if directed by council, yes.
Right, but I mean, we'll have some sort of a shopping list of submissions that we would then entertain sometime in November, or December, I guess. I'm getting a,
Yeah, if you want this to be included in the budget discussions, I'd like
Yeah.
to have a motion to that effect.
right, okay. And we don't have a motion in enough detail to do it today on the fly. So I'd like to see a motion perhaps drafted, and if you'd like to submit something, we can look at it, and then we could.
To the chair, can we not make a simple motion that council add this item to the general list of wish list items, if you will, to be considered for the budget?
So what would you like to add?
So the motion would be that council give preliminary approval or approval to have the $75,000 added to a list of prospective capital items for the 2025 budget.
Okay, and is that a second? So to add $75,000 to a list of the potential projects to be assessed under the budget process.
Correct.
Okay, that's taken, it's understood. Counselor Toth, and you're hearing all this?
Thank you. I was just wanting to ask, I did have my hand up, but I was wanting to ask if there was an urgency to the TRAC request, or if indeed it could wait for our budget process. So I'm fine to refer it to the budget process.
Okay, Ms. Braithwaite, is that okay?
Yes, we're happy to have it as part of the budget process.
Very good. Okay, I've got then I'll call the question. All in favor of putting it on the budget list? Carried. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, council, we're a little bit behind on my tentative time schedule, so we'll call Teresa Logan and the SDBA up for your delegation presentation, please. You're
Is that
on.
on?
Yep, you're on.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you for having me this evening. This is nothing new in terms of the Waterfront Boulevard Improvement Project that the SDBA is requesting support from the District of Sechelt in terms of a partnership for applying to the REDIP grant, which is the Regional Economic Diversification and Improvement Program, or Infrastructure Program, excuse me. So we're looking for support as a partner as well as some cash and in-kind. The grant is up to $1 million for the application, which the SDBA would like to apply for the full $1 million. That requirement involves a 20% in cash in kind, so 10 and 10, which of course the SDBA does not have this funding. So we are looking for the District of Sechelt for that support. The waterfront improvement project has been brought to council before by staff many years ago. I think there's an opportunity here. If we can get some free money, it would be, in my opinion, silly to throw that opportunity away. If we don't get the funding, then of course that money goes back into your bucket. I know the Growing Community Funds has over $2 million, $2,399,000. I don't know how accurate that is, excuse me, $2,009,000 in the budget from 2023. So if we can earmark up to 100,000, up to 200,000, depends on how generous you want to be, and of course what the budget will entail once I get more details. I know many have been asking, well, how come you haven't gone to the community? Well, I can't until I get the funding to do that. So if we do get awarded the funding from the REDIP, then there is a big process that we would hire this great program, Strategic Play, which some councillors had the opportunity of attending last night to learn how that works. And that would involve having all of our stakeholders come to the table and give us their vision of what the waterfront boulevard should be so that it meets everybody's needs. We want it to be inclusive, seniors, youth, business, community, everybody. So those decisions wouldn't be made until, of course, the funding was awarded, and then those processes would take place. So it would literally be from the beginning till the end. It's a 2.5 to 3 year program. And of course, if we don't get the funding again, that money goes back into your budget for other projects that might be more important, and that's okay too.
Okay, so I think council has had a chance to go through the documents you provided, so I guess this is a chance to ask questions and clarify your, so I did have the benefit of asking you. So your proposal is to apply for this REDIP grant imminently?
Yes, so the deadline is October 31st. I won't move ahead with the application unless I get the support from the district, because we don't have the opportunity to find that 20% unless it was with the support of the District of Sechelt.
So you'd need that.
Pretty quick here. I don't want to pass up an opportunity for $1 million grant for a real community. I've had conversations with the team at the REDIP, and we've had meetings, and they are very supportive of the project. It is very competitive, but I think we have a chance, and why not go for it? If it costs you $100,000 and we get $1 million out of it, I think it's an
No, okay,
opportunity we
and
shouldn't pass up.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me turn. I see Councillor McLaughlin has her finger poised. Councillor McLaughlin, no, thank you. I'm recognizing you, Councillor McLaughlin.
Well, tapping your finger, you get a lot of attention around here. Yeah, I was just wondering if you could tell us some local examples of where this funding has been used and the amount of that grant, perhaps, because even though there is $1 million possible, I wonder how many of those are nowhere near that amount in terms of the grants that are actually provided. And also, I think I would have liked to have seen the application form here in some detail, because there's just some PowerPoint slides with some general information. And I have a hard time supporting something with nothing in writing in terms of the actual grant application and the details, because I think for a grant application, you stand a much better chance of getting it if you've detailed it and you provide a lot of information like timelines and deliverables and partners and, you know, whatever, some detail on what it will entail, because
Mhm.
right now it just
Okay.
seems wide open
So
at
let's
the
ask.
most amount, yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry, what's the question?
Do you have any examples of local REDIP funding that has come? I think there was something, I don't know if other councilors know, something to Roberts Creek at one point from this funding?
I believe they got a new roof from one of the REDIPs, or that could have been a heritage grant, but I'm happy to get you some examples. The it's up to $1 million. I mean, communities
Right.
can apply for that amount. I am working on the application. I'm happy to share that with you.
So the question, there's probably none that have been local on this redip, but it's a pretty classic model.
It's for rural communities, so anything under 30,000 people. I think we have a good opportunity, but there have been waterfront improvement projects that have been funded, so I can happily share those with you.
Council, okay?
And to follow up, I think some of the requests have to do with things that may not be covered, like from what we saw from just staff internally, lighting, paving, water service, that those are more general things that would be considered generally not part of the funding. And so that's why I say I would like to know the details. And I would have liked to have maybe tested some of the concepts first before we start throwing everything out there and basically change this linear park, which is part of a park system. It's not like it's just a vacant piece of land. It's a linear park that is longstanding, needs some maintenance, but is generally well liked and loved in its current state. It's been quite controversial to change it. So that's why I would like to have seen a detail first. I would actually prefer to see this put over to next year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Inkster?
Just a couple questions. Thank you, Chair. It's $1 million and then 200,000 is us? Your amendment?
Yeah, 10% in kind, 10% cash, so it'd be $100,000.
100,000.
from the district.
And then $1
In
million?
kind would be staffing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then $1 million.
and then $1 million would be from the
It's
REDIP.
not 800 and 200, it's $1
No,
million.
it's $1 million,
Okay.
and then you would, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Teresa.
No problem.
The questions, one of the things that I have issues with is that the area down there now is getting older. And if you go walk down there now, tonight, and especially over the weekend, you're going to be walking in puddles. And that's one of the, so it works really well in the summer. But now it's more restrictive because you're in puddles. The road needs more of a rebuild, and some of the grass needs replanting and trees need redoing. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done down there. The issue a number of years ago was access. It was people that were used to a certain way of going down there and being in their vehicles. So that's, I think, what the resistance is. So what I'm saying in a roundabout way is I'd like to see us find a way to support a project that will revitalize the waterfront, but recognize our community needs. And if this is one, the question I would ask in saying that though, because I've been involved in so many revitalization projects for the downtown Sechelt changed so much over the years, and I think it looks much better over the years. If people don't think so, they should have been here 30 years ago. And what I would want to know is if in fact we approve or change the plan, is that okay with the SDBA? Is this all about improving that waterfront area? Because I'm certainly supportive of that.
Yeah, it's just my job as the SDBA is to get people to stop, stay, play, and shop. And we have an asset that is underutilized. We'd had a survey, I will share the survey after, where one of the main questions was, would you bring your family or friends here? Would you come down here? And the majority said no, because there was nothing there for them but some dead grass and a few benches. I mean, there's other parts of the waterfront that's beautiful. But when you have the majority of the people that live here say they wouldn't bring their friends or family there, then there's a problem. And
Sorry, your microphone's off now. That's my fault.
Oh, that was you. It's just a matter of improving it, making it beautiful, and that's community input telling us,
Okay.
what do you want to see?
So just before I go to Councillor Toth, can I clarify, today really, I think, is less about what is the, maybe there's a general vision as
Yeah, we
Councillor
don't know
Lyster
yet.
said, but this is about, do we want to
Support it.
signal support that might involve 100,000 cash and 100,000 in kind
Exactly. it.
to support you applying for a grant for $1 million?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I spoke about this at quite a lot of length last term. I know there's a fair number of people in our community that enjoy that waterfront exactly as it is. They drive up there, they'll park, they'll eat their lunch, they, engage with people walking their dogs, that sort of thing. A lot of those people that are driving up there and parking have mobility issues. My mom was one of them. She wouldn't have been able to, park down the hill and walk in. So the last time we talked about this, it became very clear that it was very controversial and very divisive of our residents and the people that use the area. I agree that it would be nice to do a little bit of work there, like, filling potholes and doing something better for the grass or what have you. But honestly, I don't take people there either when they come to town. And the reason I don't take them there is because it's too windy. So I think the utility of the space rather than biking or jogging or dog walking is fairly low. I am supportive of us trying to do something, but I'm not in favor of closing the boulevard to traffic, which I know has been an on again, off again issue in the past. And so I just wanted to reiterate my concerns there around accessibility and closing the boulevard to traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toth.
Can I make a
Yeah,
comment?
that's why I making the point. I'm not sure where I am with close the road, not close the road. And I wouldn't want to have to
Hasn't
make
been
that
made.
decision today, and I don't think that's what you're proposing.
No, there's been, again, and
Okay.
I want to be very, I want everybody to understand that it's the community's going to make the decision on what our waterfront's going to look like. I haven't mentioned it was an idea of closing the boulevard. Do we not? So we can't get there until I get the funding to have those stakeholder conversations.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bell?
Yeah, so through the chair,
Pull-
I'm also, very supportive of doing something down there as well. It's sort of one stretch that could really, have something that would be more attractive. My concern at this point is really just around, or my question is around the in-kind cost, the staffing cost. I don't know what that is going to, what kind of impact that's going to have on the projects that the staff have at this point in time. So I think I would want to have some feedback from staff. Although we don't know what this project looks like, that's the challenge. If we don't know what the project looks like, how much staff is it going to take and what staff are going to need to be working on this. So I just want to put that out there. I don't know how we address that as part of this, but I'd like to bring that up as a plank.
If I may, I think that decision would come if we got the money from the grant. I don't think REDIP doesn't need us to give them $200,000 of cash and time today.
No.
So it's more about, let's test the waters, see if we can get $1 million, at which point we would have to figure out, hey, we might be hiring somebody new. I'm freewheeling here, but.
Yeah,
but
the
it's
budget
n-
allows
it's not
for staff.
We're not using this time anytime soon.
Right, okay.
Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, I'll probably continue with the freewheeling. First of all, thanks very much for pursuing it. It's really divisive. I can tell from the articles that have been supplied to us, the former reports from last year, all of the comments. But I note that I think it was Councillor Lamb who said he was supportive of it if it could be funded mostly through grants. So, I'm in support of it, of moving forward, at least for the application, so that we can then get to the stage where we consult with the community over the scale and sort of eventual design of it. Thanks.
So is that start of a motion? All right. Anybody else? Please, Councillor
Thank you,
McLaughlin.
To the chair. We've seen what's been proposed before, which is, you know, I don't want to call them shacks, but really places for food establishments to be set along there. And I really do not want to see that happen because, you know, we have apparently like 13 vacant shops in the village. So we have places we can put food. There's places we need to focus some serious energy to revitalize and get things happening and helping you out with the Village Association, the downtown commercial area, for sure. But I don't think this park is necessarily the solution. And part of the reason is also that we haven't looked at the, you know, really the long-term plans, the park plans, and also the issue of sea rise and the fact that that area there is really a dike with fill that is meant to protect us from rising waters.
Okay.
So I'm just concerned about the insurance for that and other things that we haven't even thought about and the implications that could be if we overdevelop that area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Can we, let's stay focused. It's on whether we want to support the SDBA applying for a grant. Great, over to you. Yes, yes. Okay, so that's your motion. Microphone.
If in fact, I would make a motion to support the SDBA in their grant process with the District of Sechelt committing to the work hours and funding piece. So that's $100,000 if in fact it's
And
approved.
100 plus 100.
Plus 100, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a weird amount, the hours worked. It's always a little bit gray, but
Mhm.
I'm not gonna
No.
I'm not
but
going
for
to
the-
put that in the application. I'm just going to support that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a motion to support
Yes.
the SDBA making an application to redip, contemplating the funding from us of $100,000 in cash and $100,000 of services in kind.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is
no
there a
problem.
seconder? Okay, seconded. Councillor McLaughlin to the motion?
Yeah, to the motion. I mean, I still think that we can probably do some work there that would be a lot less than the amount of this grant. And we knew what we wanted to do, like for instance, lighting is considered an important feature that is not there. I think we could do it. So I think putting everything in this grant and expecting the money, I think if it's not a more firm grant application, I don't think it's really going to be effective. And so I hate to see energy wasted, whereas I think if there was a definite plan, a design that's
Okay.
properly costed out, it would be much more effective.
Yeah, that comes with the application and the funding.
I had
Oh,
my
you're going
hand
to
up.
go, okay.
Yeah, because
All right.
you asked me to make a motion.
You
and I
did.
want to speak to it.
You did, and it's been seconded, and now you speak to
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to double down on this. I think that we need to go forward and I think we need to put the application in and then I think we need to engage the community and make some improvements to that area. However, the community and however this council reads the community in order to make improvements along our waterfront.
Okay.
If in fact it adds a couple of more food kiosks, that's okay to me because people sometimes will go to other parts of the coast to eat along the waterfront. We know that. We don't know that once again, we're not leaving Sechelt much because they're going elsewhere. So we need to provide that opportunity to keep the people in our downtown core, to eat in our downtown core, to shop in our downtown core, and maybe one day to rent a room in one of the hotels that needs to come in our downtown core so they can stay longer, eat in our downtown core, and buy more stuff in our stores in the downtown core. We got to have a vision
Thanks.
for Sechelt. Let's move forward with a vision. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I'm going to support the motion on the floor because I certainly don't think anything that we do along there is going to be viable without some grant funding. I've explained my preference. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of checkpoints between now and anything getting built. So I think there is time for the community to weigh in, for council to weigh in, for our staff to weigh in. So I'm supportive of us at least asking. I hear Councillor McLaughlin's concerns that a more there may be issues with a grant application going in that maybe isn't quite as polished or finalized or developed as some might like to see. But we don't get anything if we don't try. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and we move on.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm getting some nods here, so if you're okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor McLaughlin is opposed. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to work. Get to work. Listening to. Okay, council, oops, that, we go to item 6.1, is bylaw number 623, 2024. And this is before us for adoption. Motion, Councillor Shepherd.
I'll move the recommendation on page 43.
Thank you. And I see a second from Councillor Toth. Okay. Can I clarify, I did raise this last time, but I'd like to ask through, I guess, our CAO, the community charter does refer to the chief executive officer. So this is not in this bylaw, and I'd like to understand staff's plans in that regard.
The reference to the CAO is clearly outlined in the community charter, so it is not a part of this bylaw. This is for officers that are members of staff.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions? All in favor of adoption? Carried. We then go to item 6.2 on page 47. And I believe we have, yes, ding, and then she appears on our screen. Ms. Smith for the permissive tax exemption bylaw. Anybody want to make a motion? Adoption? Yes, thank you. Councillor Inkster as on page 47. Okay, and seconded, I see, thank you. Councillor Toth?
Thank you. And my apologies for not raising this at the last meeting. There are a couple of properties that were identified through the permissive property tax exemption review committee that really shouldn't have been eligible for exemptions. I'm just wondering if those properties are still on this list or if they've come off that list. I don't see them, so thank you.
You don't see them, so
Sorry, I don't recognize them, I should say.
okay. Not sure if Ms. Smith, are you following that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Through the chair, I'm not sure which ones, perhaps Director Douglas can weigh in on those.
Certainly, we had a couple of properties that needed to be adjusted and they were adjusted, yes.
Oh, that would do, but they're still there then. They've been reduced. I think one of them was a church. I think that's the one you're referring to. Yeah, and the property was reduced to 50% of the assessed value for permissive exemption.
Okay, procedurally, was that done? That we don't have to go back and do other readings?
It was done prior.
It was
It
done.
was done for the first 3 readings already.
Okay, Councillor Toth, are you following that?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may just add, yeah, the modified, like the value was included in the attachments in the first 3 readings.
Right. So there's no amendments from what
No,
we saw at third
That's right.
reading. Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of adoption? Carried. Thank you. Smith. Very good. We go to item 6.3 on page 57. This is Mr. Hall and we'll get. Okay, so we have it's before us for, well, as presented on page 57. Anything you want to add, or you want us to ask you questions, Mr. Hall?
I can give a brief summary. Council last saw this back in December. Since that time, we've been working with the applicants on a number of revisions that they've proposed and been looking at sort of what's currently on the site and what their long-term plans are. So all of that has kind of culminated in us settling on this revised bylaw to come back for second reading again, just to clarify a few pieces in terms of the number and type of units. But we're basically got that in the proposed zoning bylaw amendment here that would update the type of units that are being proposed and allow the zoning to move forward. There is a related non-farm use application process that the applicants have just submitted to the province that's kind of tied to their larger plans, but ultimately is not directly related to this particular application. So what we have is simply an update to the type of units in terms of the geodesic domes, now 2 A-frame cabins and 5 tent or RV sites. So still within the same 10 unit limit that the province has, just updating the type of units and the configuration of those units. So we want to give second reading again and then finally move to a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
A couple of points, if I, through the chair. For planning, could Mr. Hall explain why the owner made those adjustments?
I guess they've been kind of revising their long-term plans and thinking about the different types of units that they could offer, and realizing some of the challenges with offering kind of tent and RV sites, and looking to have some more similar to the geodesic domes, more kind of I guess durable unit types to support their plans. And now, like, again, not all 10 units would be implemented right away. This is all part of their sort of longer term goal, but basically in terms of their minds, their concept for the site, updating the different types of units that they want to have on offer, and providing more sort of structurally durable units.
Okay.
Still, again, operating within the 3 seasons that they're allowed to operate.
All right.
Please carry on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My second point was, and I sent this through as an email to planning, I really appreciate the letters that came out, which were from neighboring landowners objecting to the initial application. I think that should have been in the report, because obviously when we're taking a look at this, we need to sort of balance out what people living in the area think as well. So, I mean, I did a very quick search of what has been sent into council and came up with a few letters. So I'm actually not in favor of this request, purely based on, I guess, you know, standing back from it, it really looks like an Airbnb operation that they're pivoting to. My understanding, and through the chair, sort of, I'm hoping that planning will correct me, is that the residential units that are allowed for are really for workers on that space or for that farmland within the ALR, and it seems to be, standing back from it, going in a different direction. So, you know, for those reasons, the neighbors' objections and the nature of it, I'm not in support of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments and questions? Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you to the chair. Sort of agree with Councillor Shepherd. I was reading some of the details of this, thinking about tenting and thinking about other people who have Airbnbs, and I don't know if other Airbnbs are allowed to have tents. Whether they'll have cooking facilities in there, like is there going to be tents with toaster ovens in them? And it just made me kind of a bit nervous about the kind of freewheeling, innovative, whatever kind of situation here. And although it might seem exciting and interesting, I am a little concerned about the health and safety aspects. And again, like some of the letters, I think were indicating that is it primarily going to be agricultural use, or is the use really turning over to be 10 units of Airbnb, which is, you know, considering I'd like to know the taxation on this property. Usually when people have agricultural land like that, they get a huge tax deduction for having an agricultural property. So it's just a very unusual situation. And I'm not aware of the regulations for ALR land, but there was some question about that, which I think should be studied, because we may unknowingly be not abiding by regulations for agricultural land because we're just not experts in it. But so I do have concerns about it. I mean, maybe staff could review it some more. I don't want to dismiss it totally out of hand, but there are red flags in it. I agree. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'd observe this is before us to whether we want to rescind is almost irrelevant. I mean, in terms of what I'm hearing from both of you. But it's also still second reading with the intention of public hearing and stuff. So we're in that no man's land perhaps where we're not making final decisions, but we are seeking additional information. So so in that sense, I'm more inclined to agree with the recommendations here without making any declaration that if we vote in favor of second reading, we're not saying we're approving it. At least I'm not saying that. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, I imagine going forward, if there was a change in use, there would be a change in taxation. And I'm also imagining and or expecting that staff would obviously communicate with the provincial government regarding the change in use of this agricultural land reserve, land that's available for growing in our community. I'm sure that's part of our staff's mandate. I'm okay with going to, because there was some confusion in the emails, and I'm glad we're talking about the emails publicly as to what the public said previously. There was a little bit of confusion in whether they're more accepting now. So I'm comfortable going to a public hearing to hear what the public has to say on this application. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I've got Councillor Bell and then Councillor Toth.
Yes, really, I'm supportive as well to the comments made through the chair, through Mayor Henderson as well, that we are in second reading and that we have this opportunity to get the good questions out, came up through Councillor Shepherd and Councillor McLaughlin. So I'm comfortable with moving through to second reading and a public hearing.
Thank you. Councillor Toth?
Thank you. I believe I voted in favor of this the last time we saw it, but I'm really sitting on the fence with it. I want it to go to public hearing. I want us to hear from the affected neighbors more directly and more specifically. I do have a question for staff, though, in that we're being asked to give a second reading as amended to change a couple of the sites out for a couple of cabins instead. But my understanding is that if we go to public hearing with the bylaw as is, if we decide to make changes to it after the fact, as long as we're not materially changing density, it doesn't have to go to another public hearing. So I wonder if this is sort of putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, and making changes to the bylaw again, and then going out to public hearing, and then maybe coming back to need some to make some other changes following the feedback from the public. So would appreciate that clarification if indeed we do need to amend this before it goes to public hearing.
Can I paraphrase that to Councillor Toth? In other words, could we rescind second and go straight to a public hearing?
No, my question was basically, do we need to amend it before we do the public hearing? Because I don't see a change in density being proposed. It would still be 10 units in a variety of configurations. So,
Okay, thank you. I see that. Counts.
Yes. The reason staff wanted to bring this back is to update the bylaw to bring clarity to basically the type of units. The number isn't changing, but the type of units were changing, and we wanted to kind of capture all of those different unit types within the zoning amendment. So it was kind of, this is what the applicant is proposing and they've kind of committed to, and that we're kind of securing within the zoning regulations that would apply to the property, so that the public isn't like, oh, it could be 10 sleeping units in any kind of configuration. The idea that, no, they're proposing 3 geodesic domes, 2 A-frame cabins, and 5 tent or RV sites. And that then gets written into the zoning. So when it comes time to, assuming that gets approved, they apply for a business license and they say, okay, we want to do 7 units, and here are the unit types that we're going to do. That again goes back to the zoning, and it's sort of clearly aligned with what type of units they're wanting to do. Just to maybe go back to some of the previous comments too, that in the ALR it's a little bit more complex, where like agritourism accommodation is one of those land uses that the province allows a local government to regulate and or prohibit. So we could not allow it at all. We can regulate it anything up to 10 units. The province has basically said we allow 10 sleeping units in a variety of configurations without an approval to the ALC, but local governments can choose how many, if at all, we allow that. And the agritourism is only unlocked when there's an established farm on the property that also has an established agritourism activity. So it's this kind of chain of having an agricultural use, having an agritourism use, and now you can have agritourism accommodation associated with that. So if there wasn't a farm, but there was no active agriculture, they couldn't do agritourism accommodation. So if this property ceases to be a farm in future, they don't get to do accommodation. And the zoning, the agricultural zone, doesn't allow short-term rental use like we do in the residential zones. We're just considering this agritourism accommodation use within the confines of the province's setup.
Okay, so yeah, they're not short-term rentals, but they are short-term agritourism accommodations. Okay. Okay, more curious, but in reading this, some of the report, I think most of it, much of it comes from the applicant, but their page 75, for example, is still referring to 3 year-round glamping structures and 7 seasonal tents.
Yeah, that was an older attachment from the previous report, included for some background information, but yeah, the new revised version is.
So this is, okay, thanks. Okay, council, how do you want to proceed? Councilor Inkster? What's that, on page 57, we have 3 recommendations from staff. Are you moving all 3? Well, yeah, so to do that, my understanding is we need to resend second, so we can do that first. Okay, that's a motion. Is there a seconder to resend? Seconded? All in favor of rescission? Opposed? Councilors McLaughlin and Shepherd opposed. I'm sorry, Councilor Toth, I didn't see your hand.
I'm in favor. Thank you.
Okay, then Councilor Inkster, do you want to move item 2 on page 57? Second reading as amended of bylaw 58009. Okay, is there a seconder for that? Okay, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Councilors McLaughlin and Shepherd opposed. And then Councilor Inkster, direct staff to authorize a public hearing. Okay, seconded. Okay, all in favor? Councilors opposed? Councilors Shepherd and McLaughlin opposed. Motions carry. Okay, and I'm sure staff has heard comments like, are we up on the ALR awareness and stuff? So I'm sure we'll see that in future reports. With that, I think we then go to page 133 for the actual bylaw. And this is, as I say, on page 133, it's bylaw number 58009/2023. And page, yeah, so just on the one page. So a motion to give second reading, to rescind second reading of this bylaw. Counselor Inkster, and second, Counselor Bell. All in favor of rescission of the actual bylaw? Thank you. Carried. Sorry. Opposed. Counselors Shepherd and McLaughlin opposed. And a motion to give second reading as amended of this bylaw and seconded. All in favor? Getting lost. And opposed, Counselor McLaughlin and Counselor Shepherd opposed. And finally, we don't have a date for the public hearing, so we will. Yes, thank you. All right. You can leave that and go to page 135, which is the minutes of the meeting of October 2nd. Anything, council? Not a motion to adopt? Moved, seconded? Second? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And then the meeting on page 141, which is the meeting of September 25th. And any concerns, any comments? Not a motion to adopt. And seconded, all in favor? Adopted. Okay, council, with that, we did well, we caught up. We'll go to the SCRD report. It's under section 9.1. And I think since you're here in person, Councillor Inkster, we'll let you go first. You're welcome, Councillor Toth.
Yeah, the meetings last week focused on a number of items. One of them was the transit improvement program that we've mentioned a number of times to council. And one thing that we should consider if there's a number of improvements over a number of years or a large scale improvement program that needs more buses and a larger bus mechanic and or cleaning processing facility in West Seashell, which most likely will mean more land needed. So I hope that works going forward, because I prefer to have the buses start in Seashell just like I prefer to have the ferries start in Langdale. So that was a big discussion with us over the last little while. We know that the youth fairs are coming in, or non-fairs are coming in the next couple of weeks. So up to 18 youth will now be able to travel up and down the coast. It's not much of a cost to the taxpayer, but up and down the coast for free. So that, as I had spoken at the regional district in support of this, it allows youth, no matter what their financial benefit or challenge, to jump on a bus and go to school, go to sports, go see their friends, go shopping, etc., and to be able to get on a bus any time of day or into the evening if in fact they need to get somewhere or they feel unsafe. So this is a really important program for a number of directors at the table to push through, and it will be in a couple of weeks, November 1, once the kids have their student cards. And I think this council should be pretty proud that they supported us in pushing for that. So it's really good for the youth in our community on the Sunshine Coast. Just the other things I wanted to mention, which is really key for maybe us to pay attention to, and or our planning staff to pay attention to, as they're moving towards their official community plan renewal project. So however that unfolds within the areas of the regional district, they'll most likely be keeping in touch with our staff, as they're always encouraged to. And I think that's the really important stuff I wanted to mention. Tomorrow we will be talking, it'll be hospital district, and there'll be the beginning of some finance pieces. some finance discussion after hospital district. I just wanted to mention a general thing to our council. The two regional district representatives you have there, you come back to this council, and we try to make sure we mention stuff to this council for its input, but also so that we're a conduit to our community as to how their regional district dollars are being spent on important issues that affect us and also that we pay for, like rec facilities, transit, etc. But this group needs to keep in mind that there's some things that we don't pay for at the regional district. So they're not necessarily ones that we pay through our taxation, nor are of direct benefit or direct effect upon us. Having said that, though, I will tell this council that if they have any questions on the regional district, any information that they can just ask us. And we very quickly provide the information, as Councillor Toth did to Councillor Bell last meeting when she wanted information on the leaks that were discovered. And that's really important communication to our community, but also to our council members so they can distribute the success of that program through the community. Also keep in mind that any budgetary information that we hear out in the community is merely preliminary. And much like our budget, the budget at the regional district isn't decided for a number of months. So it's any decisions and or discussion on budgetary and taxation items are not set in stone for a number of months like our budget. So don't necessarily chase budgetary information from the regional district down a rabbit hole, knowing full well that their budget cycle is much like ours. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Inkster. Councillor Toth, anything to add?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on a couple of things. There's currently pump testing going on for the test well by the airport up on Hilltop, and the test well at Kinnickinnick Park at the sports field is currently being drilled. It'll be tested, I think, sort of at the end of the month. There's some photos on Facebook and maps on the SCRD Let's Talk page, so you can see exactly where these test wells are being drilled. The next one that'll be drilled after Kinnickinnick Park is going to be at the Sechelt Hospital, because there might be an opportunity there to supplement the water needs for the hospital. The OCP update that Councillor Inkster mentioned has a presentation tomorrow at the Electoral Area Services Committee, which includes a background report and also a rough timeline. Again, it doesn't directly affect us, but it sort of peripherally affects us. It's an interesting read. Yeah, more to come. It's going to be a long process for the regional district. And then, yeah, pre-budget meetings are happening October 28th and 29th at the regional district. Directors have had a couple of opportunities to talk about prioritization of existing projects with the senior management team. We've brought in some outside consultant help to sort of help flesh out those requirements for projects, and that's really just about making sure that the SCRD is actually working on projects that it can get done, and trying not to add new projects that it can't reasonably expect to get done. Nothing at this point has been canceled off the project list. So that's going to be a very public meeting with very public conversation. But the work that the consultant's doing is sort of helping us to develop a red line, if you will. And sort of anything above that, staff expect, based on the number of hours and resources required, to actually be able to get done in a year or two. And then anything that falls below that red line is essentially not a priority item for the regional district. So there's going to be a lot of that work ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Start of busy season. Maybe it's the continuation of a busy season up the hill. Council, we'll go to the council reports, and how about we start on my right, and we'll go all the way down to Councillor Toth, who's virtually on my left and elsewhere. But Councillor Bell.
Yeah, so I attended the strategic play session. Was that yesterday or today? Yesterday, with the Sunshine or Sechelt Downtown Business Association. It was a very good process, just in terms of a visionary process. I want to do a shout out to as I always do, to our nonprofits in this community and the incredible work they do. I attended the seniors planning table meeting. There was around 25 members from across the community, across sectors across the community. And they talked about a lot of initiatives they're doing for seniors. One thing that I just want to highlight is the one called the Seniors Community Connector. And this is assist with helping seniors identify what matters to them and work out how to connect with activities that might help improve their health and well-being. This group works closely with the seniors that might help improve their, closely works with the seniors, their families and healthcare professionals to identify and access local services with the goal of improving an individual's health and social wellness. And this is just one program. There's a variety of programs at the Sunshine Coast Resource Center focusing on the health and well-being of seniors. And I like to do a shout out whenever I have an opportunity of this great work. So please pass that on to the community that they can drop by the Sunshine Coast Resource Center in Torito Square or on the website. I think that this is a really important, I guess, conversation for me. I feel that I'm very passionate about the seniors. How can you tell I'm one of them myself? But very passionate about the seniors in our community, not only just because the demographics are 60% of our demographics, but we know that there is a lot of situations with isolated seniors. And I think we have a lot that we can do as a community around this. And as I say, my heart goes out to the seniors that feel isolated. And I really want to support and, as I say, highlight these great nonprofits that are doing this great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd. Two meetings. Today was the Chamber of Commerce, their monthly meeting. I believe they're going to be coming to council shortly to talk about their Invest in Sunshine Coast program that they want to ramp up, which I think everyone's going to be interested in hearing. Also point or suggest some areas where there's a duplication in costs being spent by the various municipalities on the Sunshine Coast, and perhaps sort of start a conversation about that, about where efficiencies could be made. That'll be interesting too. Yesterday was the monthly report of meeting of the Airport Development Committee. I see there are two gentlemen here in the audience who've kind enough to visit from the committee. Three issues I think that we're taking action on. First of all, finally the draft master plan should be coming by the end of next month. That'll come to the committee to look at, refine, but it should be presented to council as well. The second issue is the issue of the landing lights not being able to use, have been put in, substantial amount of money spent on them, but not functioning yet. So a conversation our head of engineering just had today with the consultant associated in engineering. They're going to propose more work. So we have to, the committee's got to look at that as well as staff and council. Final issue, because of trees surrounding the airport, I think there's a temporary solution proposed of an acronym, a NOTAM notice to all pilots, as to allow to notify pilots how to safely land, and that's with our staff, and they'll be consulting with the existing consultant on the master plan to see if that's feasible and typical of use. So those three things are being looked at right now. Thank you. Nothing else? No. Very good. Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you through the chair. I also went to the Lego play session for the trail pathway system linear park yesterday. So that was something I'm sort of familiar with, doing design charrettes and having consultants to, try and get people to think outside the box, as they put it. And so that was interesting. And I definitely participated fully in that. Also, I've been to the Med Talk at the Ravens Cry. These are things that are put on by the Hospital Foundation. The speaker there was kind of a local person who is world renowned for talking about something called the Happiness Project. And so it was very insightful. It's an international ranking of places. Talked about Canada's ranking being really high at some point, falling a little bit. But the gist of that is that it's really the sense of community that makes for a really good happiness aspect in any given culture or place. And that having more money at a certain point does not increase your happiness. So that's good to know that, when we're doing our services here, that we keep in mind how we can improve people's lives and promote that happiness, especially as Councillor Bell was saying, that we have so many seniors. If there's 60% of the population of Sechelt, the village area, I don't know what it is, 70, 80, it's a lot of seniors. And so they really appreciate this walkable, shoppable, close to the hospital and amenities kind of location, close to the senior center. So it's really wonderful that way. Also, I want to promote things that really help keep the village functioning. Again, Ravens Cry Theater had the Sunshine Coast Film Society playing films in the middle of the afternoon. Great for seniors, lots of seniors at this, but it's really inspiring to be able to go there and see these films, which generally are not made to my liking very often, other films. So I really appreciate these being held and getting to meet with a lot of people that appreciate the same thing. Plus they often have concerts, music concerts, et cetera, which I think really bring an element of sophistication to the Sechelt. Also want to encourage people to attend the Legion evening events, to go and purchase food. They're there setting up, trying to get things going, and getting people to get in the habit of attending and enjoying the nightlife around here. Yes, there is a little bit. And so I think that's really, really helpful. And so I hope we can promote more bands to play more often in these local venues that we have, because there are a lot of really great local musicians here, more and more every year. It's unbelievable. So yeah, other than that, just enjoying the weather. Sometimes we'll have these rainstorms like today, and I wondered if I was going to make it here today at one point, and it cleared up, and here I am. So these big storms that come from Hawaii and really are a bit scary now with the threats they have to the waterfront. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. Was also at the community visiting yesterday at Rockwood. It was a good exercise. It sort of informed us for the discussion tonight, although a number of council members are familiar with the changes that may need to occur down there. I just wanted to mention that there's a goodbye thing for Clarence from Skakel, who's leaving town. Everyone knows that. That'll be at the Legion next Tuesday, on October 22nd in the afternoon, so after 3. So if anybody wants to go say goodbye, he's been very active in the community, not only as part of the church system, but also working with those with challenges, very active there, but now he's going back to Vancouver. So remember that if council wants to go say goodbye. He's been a very positive, have a very positive spin in our community. And I voted the other day. I didn't see any of council's names on the ballot, so I was happy to come back here and see you all here still. But I made sure I did part of our great democracy. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Echo your comments about Clarence Lee. Councillor Tough.
Thank you. I don't really have anything to add. I was at the STBA thing yesterday. I had to cut out early due to an appointment, but enjoyed the process. really pleased to hear that somebody who does this sort of work at this sort of level internationally lives here. The founder of the company is here on the Sunshine Coast. Only thing I wanted to tag on to with Councillor Inkster is, yeah, if you haven't voted yet, you can vote anytime the district electoral office is open in the mall. You don't have to wait for the voting days. And yeah, what's the saying? Vote early and vote often. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Maybe not the second part of that. Great. Okay, well, last Sunday, I was asked to attend and spoke at an event put on by the Home Healthcare Network, focusing on topic we've all raised tonight. I think the needs of seniors in our community. And I want to give a shout out to all the different groups that are doing a lot, but there's still always more to be done. I attended briefly this evening, just before council meeting, they called the Pacific information session on their proposed new school up the hill above Shorncliffe, and look forward to them bringing back their plans in the coming months. I spent a lot of time looking ahead, researching some new ideas and solutions for Sechelt, and council, I'll be circulating those to all of you in the coming weeks. And last, but certainly not least, I want to note that 10 years ago on this date, the Council of the Day and I had the honor of hosting the official opening of the Sechelt Water Resource Center. So we had a great time with a number of dignitaries to demonstrate, well, it was just something of great pride, and it brought a lot of visibility to Sechelt. I especially want to thank the district's extraordinary team of professional operators, current and past, because complex facilities like this operate well thanks to the passion and the dedication of the team. And occasionally, usually I gather in the middle of the night, something goes awry and this team responds 24/7. So I think, obviously I'm proud of what we were able to achieve, and we built on work from prior councils at that time. But more importantly, it highlights what municipalities can do. And I look forward to working with all of you to deliver on similar projects, hopefully in the years to come. Oh, and you've already said, don't forget to vote, so I don't have to read that. Okay, council, that is we go then to item 10, and this is the UBC Indian Chiefs letter and resolution. And council, how would you like to proceed? I mean, it's here as correspondence, so if, yes, Councillor McLaughlin.
Sorry. CIC Resolution 2024-61, resignation of District of Sechelt Mayor John Henderson, in case there's any doubt what that is. And so they're calling for your resignation. And there's a lot of wherefore, therefores, whereas, and this it's very lengthy. And I don't know if you have any comments on it, but we raised the idea of this before, and you said you will not resign. So I want to know if you still feel that way with this additional letter. Thank you.
Okay. I guess there's a number of parts to this that cause me concern. I've never denied the existence of residential schools, not their existence, not the fact they cause pain and suffering to people, and not the existence of graves. I think there's a lot of things that have been put in these various correspondence that correspondences that we've received, that I wish we had been able to have dialogue with the various agencies. You know, I've sat with people, sat with elders, I've sat with people that attended residential schools. I've heard their stories and I accept their truth. I accept them. But I did, as I said in previous meetings, I prefer dialogue to dictates. And to me, anybody making any sort of demands on people, that's the wrong approach. So I remain committed to dialogue. I think it's the way forward. And I hope that if everybody will be willing to sit down, we'll learn from each other. And that, frankly, is the only way to true, lasting, and healthy relationships. So that's my comment. Okay. So we have the correspondence before us. We'd normally have a motion to accept the correspondence or receive the correspondence. Councillor Shepherd, is that a motion?
Yeah, motion to accept?
To receive, yes. Yeah. Okay, and seconded, Councillor Inkster. Councillor Toth, see your hand up?
I do. We can vote on the motion and then I've got a question. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, this is to a motion to receive the correspondence. All in favor? Carried. Yes, Councillor Toth.
Thank you. You had said previously that you were looking to try and meet with Grand Chief Stuart Phillip or other members of the UBCIC executive. I'm just wondering if you've had any success with that. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I took the resolution of council from September 25th directing that I not have contact with the Seychelles as something that you would not have supported me doing with the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. So I have not reached out to them. I would be very willing to do so. But the answer to your question is I have not at this time. Okay, anything else? Okay, not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Seconded, all in favor, we're adjourned.